This is the Essential Me series. This is Essential Brain Health with our guest, Norma Barr. Welcome, Norma.
Hello, Tina. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Our series has all these wonderful topics, everything from emotional balance, the essential family, to women and men's health. Last week we did financial focus, and this week is the brain health with more to come. There is a change in the schedule. Essential animals will not be next week, but detoxing the body will be, so you'll see me next week. So right now we have Essential Brain Health, and that is Norma Barr and Shay Selvage, mother and daughter, Barr and Barr Communication Consultants. Then you'll have me next week and Summer the following week with Essential Yoga. So I want to introduce you to Norma. Some of you have met her before, especially when she came here to visit in Arizona. And so on her bio it says exciting, yes, challenging, yes. We know our purpose is to help others by recognizing and using brain-body capabilities to create and maintain genuine relationships at home and at the workplace. So Barr and Barr Consultants focuses on leadership, teamwork, coaching, group actions, and communications, and they help people grow in their purpose, their power, their personality, and perception. They have found that the human needs in each sector that they serve is the same, whether it's healthcare, construction, military, global sales organizations, gas and oil, National Weather Service, and other nonprofits that they have worked with over the years. They focus on relationships, internal and external. B&B, Barr and Barr, is a mother-daughter team carrying on consulting firm created by the mother-dad team 40 years ago. Norma is the presenter, consultant, and Shay is the business manager. So Shay is behind the scenes there working as we speak. Say hello, Shay.
Hi.
I'm going to leave the rest to Norma. Here you go, Norma.
All right, and you just got introduced to Shay, who is usually the behind-the-scenes person, but absolutely an essential role. So let me get right into why are we thinking about brain facts today, and why are we looking at that? I'll tell you that our conclusion, after 40 years of work in the workplace and in various places, we find over and over that most of us don't know how to mine the rich experiences our life has already produced for us. We don't know how to get into our memories and reflection and say, what have we learned in this exciting day-to-day life that we lead? So we found that we needed to help people understand how to navigate their inner world a little bit better. And so let's start today with the brain, and we're going to change an assumption that the world has had for a very long time. So let's first look at the brain, and let's look at the neocortex. That's usually the part that we think of as our brain, because that's where, right in the front, right in the forehead, right behind that heavy bone, and right above the eyes, is where the neocortex has a whole operational area where it gives us conscious thinking. So we can decide, we can think, we can weigh this option or that option. And most people think that is the brain. But we have three more parts that are very different in accessing. And what the research, the scientific facts now are telling us, that only the neocortex uses language in order to find meaning. So we say this is 5 inches tall, weighs so many ounces or pounds, and that begins to give us meaning. The rest of the body doesn't function with language. It functions in a different way, and it communicates differently than the neocortex does. So let's go to the second brain that's nestled right up under that, the neocortex, which you can see is in the tannish color. In that yellow place where they're looking at the arrow, that is connecting the limbic system. And it has a number of pieces to it. So as we're looking at this, let's also remember that the brain has two hemispheres, a right side of the brain and a left side. and they are mirror opposites in terms of some of the things they do. So the limbic system is unconscious, but absolutely critical because it appraises. In other words, it finds value in things. So when we are meeting someone for the first time, the limbic system does a hasty appraisal to find out whether this, let's say we're meeting a person, and the appraisal of the limbic system, and then it goes down to the next brain, which is the primitive brain. Now, neither the limbic system nor the primitive brain, which is the third brain, when you show it, notice that both of those are in the unconsciousness of a human being. The primitive brain doesn't use language, and it doesn't cognate. In other words, it doesn't do logical thinking. It simply, in a primitive way, checks to see that this new person I'm meeting, are they in danger to me personally? Or are they neutral? Or are they positive to me personally? And that's what it checks. It checks to see, do you have bad intentions? Do you want to call me a liar? Do you want to discount me professionally or personally? The primitive brain, even though you may never have said that, if the primitive brain is picking up any vibrations or any indications from your nonverbal or your internal thinking that you mean to hurt me in some way, it will fire the fight or flight mechanism. And we think, oh, okay, so now we know how the brain works, but not quite. In the last 20 years, we have incontrovertible proof that there is another brain service that's going on in our body, and it's a huge one, and it's in the gut. So we have enormous capacity in the gut to also check and audit. Is what my neocortex telling me, is it logical? And is what my limbic system telling me, is it appraising accurately? And does my primitive brain find any danger to me? And if those three things are not aligned, then the gut checks the electrical and the chemical happenings in the body and gives us a warning. Let's take an example. You ever met someone for the first time? On the surface, they appeared to be smiley. On the surface, they appeared to be a very nice person. And you stuck out your hand, they stuck out their hand, and the moment you shook their hand, you wanted to draw your hand back. And have you ever caught yourself not finishing the handshake and then dropping your hand, and then unconsciously, without a conscious order to do so, you found that you had just taken a step backward? And then another pleasantry passes, and you take another step backward. So you have the limbic system, the primitive, and the brain gut microbiome to say, watch this person. And so consequently, we may have misinformation. It may lead us wrong. But when you and I are at our best and our strongest is when our neocortex, our logic, is telling us the same thing that the limbic system is telling us, which is telling us through chemicals and neurons and things that are released, that the primitive brain is telling us, that the gut brain is telling us. But let's go back to our analogy of the person that our three primitive systems are telling us, watch this person, they mean you danger. Those three systems give us an unconscious leaning toward someone or leaning back a little bit and watching them carefully. And those are very primitively, very fast appraisals that the neocortex, the consciousness, is not even aware is going on. So you only have subtle signals to read. I met a person like that who was very into power. He had, on the surface, he was dressed immaculately. He was dressed like a CEO. He had the manners, and he was consciously aware of where things were. But the moment I saw him directly, looked in his eyes, and engaged his hand, I knew that I did not trust him. I am guessing that everybody that we're talking to right now, and everybody who's thinking this through, can give an example of someone that you knew instantly you did not feel comfortable with. So when I think about the primitive, all the wonderful stuff, you and some of us have lived a very long time, so we have lots of memories, lots of experiences. My question is, do we know how to reflect on them and mine the gold that our own life experiences have produced for us? So I'm going to ask Tina to say, if all of us are worried about time, why, and we also know, probably all of us have read plenty of evidence about how stress impacts our ability to think and to heal and to be healthy. Then I'm going to ask Tina if she will help us make the connection between managing our own internal world and essential oils. When Tina told me about essential oils, I was instantly excited that here is something that comes from nature, that is natural, that can help us manage our own systems. So Tina, would you help us with the speed and the stress angle?
Yes, ma'am. Speed of certified pure therapeutic grade essential oils. So aromatically, the molecules reach the brain within 22 seconds. Topically, they can be found in the bloodstream within 2 minutes. And at the close of 20 minutes, pure essential oils have reached each cell in the body. Basically, because your body metabolizes them like food, it takes in the nutrients where it needs it, and it flushes out the things that it doesn't.
Which is a very efficient system.
Absolutely. So here's some excerpts from Danielle's essential oil and the brain sheet. We'll go through some of these as Norma talks about different emotions that the brain and of different emotions that we have and how the brain deals with it. This one's with worried or anxious emotions. So she has a list of essential oils to use, different blends to try, and some actual suggestions in regards to specific oils. I'm going to suggest here that when you're in that mood of worried or anxious emotions, my go-tos are lavender, balance, and copaiba. So lavender is always very calming. Balance is the one that I suggest putting on the bottoms of your feet each morning to just make sure all your systems are working at their prime. Then copaiba is one that's very calming, very good for anybody that's anxious. There's been some research done on the copaiba, and there's so much more to it that that would probably take a whole nother session. But copaiba is very good for worried or anxious emotions. So those are my top 3 for this particular topic.
Thank you, Tina. The next thing I'd like us to add is that 24 hours a day, we have a stream of thoughts going and we have a stream of feelings, and they do not turn off. And I think you probably are pretty familiar with that. So while these streams are flowing, mostly they're flowing beneath the level of consciousness, checking all the things that at our conscious mind, in that little space in the neocortex, we couldn't possibly check all that information. And so consequently, the thoughts and the feelings that go on all the time, we sometimes need to dip in and say, you know, which of that is accurate and which isn't? How much of the unconscious thought flow do I need to check with? And so when we're feeling stressed, guess what gets accented? The worry thoughts, the worry feelings, the upset, the doubt, the fears, those things get greater. So when we recognize at a conscious level, you know, I am really getting uptight, that's when I'd want to turn back to you, Tina, and say, when I recognize that I've got that level of stress, how can doTERRA oils help that?
Stress is a big one. It depends on where it's coming from. So when we're looking at stress here, it's kind of taking it as emotional. But it could be environmental. It could be a lot of different things that are coming through. So there's some generic list of oils here again, and some suggested blends. And I'm going to give you my top 3 again. is going to be, again, lavender. Lavender is a great one to have in your repertoire of essential oils. But any of the citrus oils are a great pick-me-up. Peppermint with a citrus oil, so like peppermint and wild orange, or peppermint and bergamot, or the lime, the lemon, any of those that you like. I would do a citrus oil, and then you can add to it some of the peppermint or lavender, or even ylang ylang. Ylang ylang is very good for stress. It's very good for the heart. And so those are my top 3 for being stressed out.
Thank you, Tina. That helps us understand where to check. The next thing we're going to look at is the 9/11, the alarm fear circuitry. And we have in the right side of our brain and the left, a mirror, we have the amygdala. And what it does is, if anything in any of the systems, if the gut picks up something, if the primitive brain picks up something, or the limbic system that we feel might endanger, then there's a sudden release of cortisol and sometimes adrenaline, which says, I've got to get ready to fight, or I have to get ready to run, that something here is unsafe. So when our fight or flight mechanism fires, it emotionally hijacks many of our systems. So if my brain thinks that I am in danger, it will immediately take over where oxygen goes, where blood goes. So it will immediately look to see, well, Norma, you don't need to be digesting food now, you need to be running. So my digestion stops right there, and the blood is redirected from that function, and it rushes into my bigger muscles. So it rushes into my legs, my big leg muscles and my arm muscles, which says, get ready to fight. And so it will shut down whatever is not needed. Now, something that every one of us needs to be aware of is when we get that bolt of fear or bolt of something is really wrong, then recognize that at that moment, my higher order thought is also shut down. I will have the urge, an immediate, instantaneously urge to defend myself, to do something, to take action. So what we need to really understand is that mechanism, 21st century, our brains are wired to be able to take over anything that is threatening in a nanosecond and take over our entire body systems to prepare us to live, to prepare us to fight and defend ourselves. So if you'll look at the next slide and recognize that if I'm looking at a situation, my feelings assess first and my thoughts assess second. Although we are taught in school to rely on our rational mind and dismissing the heart, saying, oh, that's just emotionality and you can't trust it. Well, there's something happening in the heart that's deeper than emotionality, and it means that the heart is also there to protect life. It is there to look at opportunity for relationship. It is there to sustain love that is necessary to sustain life on planet Earth. So let's just consider that the head considers, but ultimately it's the heart commits. If the heart picks up something that says untrustworthy or unsustainable, then it will simply have us reacting in a fight or flight mode. And so we have to learn to distinguish what is emotionality and what is heartfelt core values that are warning me something about this I'm going to be really sad about. So we got to learn more how the body functions and how it processes our data. So one of the things we have to look at is we have brains, but how do we manage our focus and to what do we pay attention? Tina, you can help us with oils on those two questions.
Absolutely. So we've got a list here for focus and attention. So anything that distracts you, basically I'm looking at Intune as my go-to. And like I said before, with wild orange and peppermint, peppermint is great to take that wild orange and lift it up even further so that basically you have that attentiveness, but you don't have the anxiety. So it then increases your focus and attention. In tune is my favorite though. I would say for studying, for kids. I used to put this on the occipitals for Taylor, which is again is the nape of the neck, either side. Put it on the back of the neck there when it was test days, and she could maintain focus on long test days. So those are my go-to for focus and attention.
Tina, your shortcuts are invaluable in telling us what your experience has been so that we can try these and try your recommendations right away. So thank you for that. There are a couple more things that I want to add to our use of the brain. And this is something that I borrowed from James Hunter. I liked so much what he said when he said, I can't always control how I feel about other people, but I certainly am in control of how I behave toward other people. Feelings can come and go depending on what you ate for dinner last night. I like that so much because he's saying, Norma, you have to be responsible for what's going on in you. And so if someone else is treating me disrespectfully, I'm responsible for whether I decide to be disrespectful back. Because I am a thinker and a person who really likes fairness, I will have a bloody tongue if I can even catch it in time. Somebody treats me with disrespect, I've got a whiz of an answer to come right back. And I have a strong urge to do it. But this next thing is what I will be working on all the days of my life. My neighbor or this person may be difficult, and I may not like him or her very much. I can still behave lovingly, and I expect myself to. And I can be patient with him or her, honest and respectful, even though that person chooses to behave poorly. And so I wanted to just share that with you because we have strong instincts and strong personalities, and this is not that easy to deal with. So let's wrap up this part by just looking at each system operates in relation to its function. So let's just review our four systems, the four parts of the brain. The heart represents the limbic brain, which we've said, the feeling part of the brain, and that's what appraises. The head represents the top, the neocortex, the rational reasoning, and it analyzes. And the gut checks it all, audits to see if the decision is aligned with our conscience. So when you look at all that, and it's checking it for pain or pleasure, distrust or trust, it's checking every aspect of our experience. It tells us, am I being drawn toward this person or am I pulling back? So a quick check is toward or away. What is all that complex information in those other three parts of the brain besides the head? What is it telling us? Is it drawing me toward this idea or am I pulling away? Or are they telling me different things? That's the time to stop, reflect, and find out what to do. So I would suggest to you that Dr. Timothy Jennings has stated that we have power over what we believe, but what we believe has power over us. So when you think about it like that, I would urge you to spend a little more time thinking, what do I do with all this life experience that I have? Am I effectively mining it? Do I know how to use these powerful systems in order to serve more, in order to love more, in order to connect more? So that's where we would go. But I'd also like to go back to the thing to show that we have some real help that comes directly from nature, taken care of through scientists who have strong ethics and strongly interested in finding reliable, provable connections between things that were created in nature that apply to and help us with things that were created in our human body. So Tina?
So we're going to go back and remember that in 22 seconds, the molecules reach the brain from a certified pure therapeutic grade essential oil. In 2 minutes, they will be found in the bloodstream. And in 20 minutes, they will affect every cell in the body.
Incredible. Here are just some things that don't cost you anything to reduce your stress. And you've seen this list before. Get more sleep, take walks, reflection and prayer, technology breaks, deep breathing, increasing gratitude. They don't cost anything, but we have to remember to do them. And those are things that simply says, I'm getting myself balanced. I'm getting back in touch with who I am, what I stand for, what my integrity level is, and what my deepest core values are. And that's when I can be in touch with those in alignment, that's when I am the most relaxed and at my best.
So on to a couple other things that's on that Danielle's brain sheet is memory and learning, healthy habits, healthy brain cell activity. And some of my favorites in this realm with memory and learning is peppermint for memory recall. Rosemary and frankincense are great with that too, because frankincense does not have the oxygen molecule, so it can pass through the blood-brain barrier. It's small enough to be able to affect the brain positively. Healthy habits and healthy brain cell activity, the lifelong vitality, or the cellular health, the Omegas that have all the omegas for balancing out your omega-3s and omega-6s. So that's for brain health and joint health and such. And then it also has the VMZ. So we're not getting all the nutrients we need in our current diets with our current food supply. So we need those supplements to provide those nutrients, as well as some of the essential oils to help with those nutrients to the cells. Then we've got positive mood and cooperative behavior. Again, these are just excerpts from that sheet. There is more to that, and if you want to look that up or get that for yourself, those are you can find those multiple places. One of the places that I get them from is Aroma Tools. But with positive mood and cooperative behavior, elevation, forgive, and cheer are my top 3 for positive mood. Clary sage, serenity, and balance for cooperative behavior. And lemon and lavender together basically is kind of really good for anybody that may have depressive nature or having a depressed day. So very good for those as well. Diffuser blends that she had on hand were these. So they have anything from Behave Blend, Nap Time, and Happy Baby. So I'm assuming these are all for adolescents here. Cheerful Chores and Superhero Power and Happy Homework. Again, these are all kind of listed more for diffusing around the house for those younger adolescents that are in your home. We mentioned balance before, but we didn't exactly say how quickly or what balance can do. I mentioned putting it on the bottoms of your feet, and this is something that Dr. Hill did. Basically put one blood sample under the microscope, and that's his blood before, and then 30 seconds after putting a drop of balance on the bottom of his big toe, basically that's his blood sample afterwards, a more healthy looking blood activity happening there. So balance is really good to help the whole body system, because as fast as the oils get into your bloodstream is how fast it's going to go throughout your whole body.
So in case you want to look further into brain body health, I would recommend any one of these 5 sources. Very proven, very respected, and very deep research. And one of them even quoted Hippocrates from about the 21st century. All disease begins in the gut. And it took us 2,100 years to bring the research that says, indeed, it does.
Here's a little something that I put together. It's called Brain Gain. So these are some blends that you can do, or diffusing blends, or put it in a roller ball with some fractionated coconut oil for memory help, to worry less, cooler heads prevail, stress less, mood lifter, and more focus. These are some of the oils that you can use in any combination of what you have to help in any of these situations here. I'm going to do my disclaimer here. Like I said, the full brain sheet can be purchased from Aroma Tools, and I'm sure there's other places that you can go and find that. You can go to Essential Partners for any of our takeaways, like the Brain Gain and any other materials. The statements made here have not been evaluated by the FDA, so seek your healthcare provider when consulting or looking to change your health. Norma, we have some shy people. Is there anything you have for shyness?
That's a choice we make, and for those of us who are introvert, it's a very deep desire to think before we speak, and so that is definitely at play. But what I find is, as soon as an introvert finds in their heart a passionate part of the conversation, they're extremely verbal and very persuasive and influential.
Nice.